Danny here, coming to you from the den. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for joining me. Season 1, episode 4, and what a great episode this was. They accomplished so much with this episode. They managed to take us out of the normal sitcom vibe that we've been exposed to and comfortable with for the last 3 episodes. We still crave to see Wanda and Vision in their 1950s, 60s, 70s setup, which was really fun. But this episode served its purpose. We're almost through the halfway mark with this season, and we needed to have this episode kind of recap what's been going on. In my last video, I mentioned, are we gonna see Monica's or Geraldine's at that time point of view? What happened? What led her to Westview? And we actually got that. And this episode started with the people that were snapped away coming back, or blipped as they're calling it now. But we got a quick glimpse of Monica coming back from the snap after being dusted. She was in the hospital. We got word that her mother, Monica Rambeau, passed away from cancer. She was there after her mom recuperated from a procedure. She thought everything went well, but when she came back, she thought she was kind of asleep for 20 minutes and she was looking for her mom. As she goes outside, there's all this chaos going on in the hospital, this big catastrophic event that happened within the MCU, which again is such a great payoff to having this cinematic universe, this shared universe, because you're getting this small contained story within a large, bigger universe, and it's great to be able to see how all these pieces tie together. That's how we kick off that episode. We're gonna see where Monica's at and what led her to being Westview as Geraldine. 3 weeks later, she meets with the new director of S.W.O.R.D. We got confirmation that yes, this is S.W.O.R.D. and they're involved, and it turned out that her mother, Monica Rambeau, was one of the founders and the director of S.W.O.R.D. And we hear very brief mentions of the space missions and how she wants to get back up there. The director, Tyler Hayward, tells her she's grounded, and Monica's trying to figure out, but why? Like, who set this protocol up? And he told her, well, your mom. She had a hope that whoever disappeared was gonna come back. They need her to help the FBI with a missing persons case. And she goes to Westview, New Jersey. That's where the town of Westview is. And she meets FBI agent Jimmy Woo, and he does his little card trick, which is a reference to Ant-Man when he was overseeing Scott Lang's home arrest, and Scott was learning, magic tricks, and Jimmy wanted to learn how he did that. And it's great to see that pay off here in this show. Again, connecting it to the bigger picture, which is awesome. And they're having a conversation. Jimmy tells her, like, hey, we had this person under eyewitness protection and nobody knows who he is, but even better, right? Let's talk to these cops. They didn't know that Westview existed. Monica asked them, where you're from? We're from Eastview. So there's this bigger mystery. As Jimmy said, it's not just a missing persons case, it's a missing towns case of over 3,000 people. So what's going on? And you see Monica take out the drone, and as soon as you see it, it clicks, right? This is the helicopter that Wanda saw in color on episode 2. And she sends the drone out and it goes right through the energy field and it disappears. And as Monica gets closer, she realizes, hey, there's something here. And as she's touching it, she gets pulled in, she gets sucked into the magical world of WandaVision. After that, we see S.W.O.R.D. come in, and in comes Darcy Lewis. She's an astrophysicist, and she's brought in with other experts. She makes the point that S.W.O.R.D. doesn't know what's going on. They don't know what they're dealing with. So as Darcy sets up, she kind of picks up on some energy signatures, and she asks for the old boob tubes, right? And when she gets the old school televisions, not flat as she would say, she's able to pick up on the frequency of the WandaVision sitcom. That's when her and Jimmy and director Hayward make the connection that, hey, these are 2 Avengers. And Darcy even says, well, wasn't he dead? Not snapped, dusted dead, but really dead. And that raises one of the questions that we've all had. And at that moment, that's when they kick it into high gear as to, hey, what's going on here? We need to figure out what this mystery is. And it's almost as if the show is taking the perspective of the viewer. We're all trying to figure out what's going on. You see them with the whiteboard, and within the whiteboard they were making notes. They ask the questions of why a hexagonal shape, why a sitcom, is Vision dead, who's doing this, is it extraterrestrials, perhaps Skrulls? A lot of the questions that have been going through our minds are asked in this episode. Darcy mentions that it is a cosmic microwave background radiation, where director Hayward mentions relic radiation dating back to the Big Bang. So is there more to this? Can that be a connection to the Infinity Stones? In the movies they do mention that the Infinity Stones were created as part of the Big Bang. I believe that was mentioned in Guardians of the Galaxy. The Collector was kind of speaking to the origins of the Infinity Stones. So is this radiation, this energy signature, connected to Wanda's powers and the fact that she gained them through the Mind Stone? Most likely, right? As you're seeing, this episode is running concurrent with the prior 3 episodes we've seen with Wanda and Vision. You see, as they're observing the town of Westview, that the occurrences that we've seen so far are being seen on the monitors. And we get confirmation that at the very end of the first episode, indeed it was Darcy who was observing them and taking notes. So we got some questions answered, and as we continue talking, we'll see how other questions were raised. The other thing that was confirmed was that the beekeeper that came out of the sewers was a SWORD agent, and initially he was wearing a hazmat suit, but once he got through the energy barrier, his hazmat suit converted into a beekeeper's outfit, and as he came out of the sewers, everything turned black and white. What happened to that agent? We don't know. All we know is that Wanda reversed time and we didn't see him after that. The harness that was latched onto him to be able to pull him back turned into an old school jump rope and it broke off. So we still have to see what happened with this agent. And Agent Jimmy Woo at one point also mentions, so the universe created a sitcom. And that's part of the question, why a sitcom? I still go back to my theory that this is Wanda's coping mechanism. Again, she was orphaned as a 10-year-old kid. This was probably her escape, watching television shows like Lucy, Bewitched, and the Brady Bunch. And for her, this is the ideal family, the ideal life, and that's the kind of life that she wants to live with Vision, up until that life is threatened. And we go into that episode with Wanda going into labor with the twins. Geraldine is there helping her. Wanda mentions Pietro. Geraldine makes the grave mistake of, mentioning Ultron and Ultron killing Pietro. And you see Jimmy Woo and Darcy kind of get that realization of like, hey, is this the first time that there's a mention of the real world? And it's never happened before. And you see the occurrences that have been happening on episode 4 and what's been happening in the real world has connected with the episodes that we've seen so far. We even saw it with the second episode with the radio. We got confirmation of who it was that was speaking to Wanda through the radio, which was Jimmy Woo. Another question answered. And as they're watching the episode, it's almost as if they got censored, and they kind of mentioned that later on, where somebody's censoring the show. It happened when we saw Vision speaking to Wanda. He's telling Wanda there's something wrong here, and he had that glitch. It happened again when Geraldine was speaking with Wanda, and Wanda's asking her, who are you? All of a sudden, again, there's another glitch, and Darcy makes mention that somebody's censoring it and they don't know where she went. Like, where is she? Because you all of a sudden see Wanda and Vision sitting down with the twins on the sofa watching television. But what ends up happening is that once the alarms go off and they run outside, they see Monica underground, and we kind of go back to that moment where Wanda is speaking to Geraldine and is telling her, hey, who are you? You don't belong here. You're a stranger. You need to leave. And we see how she just crashed her through several walls and outside of the energy field. And that's where last week's episode ended and pretty much where this episode ends. So we got a nice interlude between last episode and the next upcoming episode, and that's what episode 4 did. It served to explain how did Monica get here and what's been going on outside of the town of Westview. So it was great to be able to kind of put some more pieces to the puzzle together, and that's where we're at. Monica ends the episode by saying it's Wanda, it's all Wanda. So is there somebody involved? Is somebody controlling Wanda? Right now, as of this moment, they're making it seem as if Wanda's in full control of her abilities, of her powers, and she's the one who's doing this. But I like to believe that it's not that simple. When Wanda gets rid of Geraldine, she almost has this moment of confusion. Like, what just happened? And she sees the hole through the wall and she fixes it. Then Vision comes in, and this is where reality kicks in, and you're like, holy cow. When Vision comes in, at first I was like, oh, it's odd that they kind of blurred his face out. I didn't think they were gonna show what we would see next. And as Wanda looks up, she sees Vision in black and white, very monochrome, but with the hole in his head. And she kind of gets startled, almost as if she didn't know what to expect or didn't know that that's what she was going to see. But she saw it, and then she lifts her head up again and she sees Vision back with color. And the question goes back to, is Vision dead? What's going on with Vision? I'm convinced that Vision isn't really aware of what's going on, but he suspects something because he tells Wanda, oh, we don't have to stay here, we can go somewhere else. And Wanda tells him, no, we have to stay here, this is our home. And then she says, oh, what are we gonna watch today? And Vision has this serious look, but then he just smiles and goes with it. So I wholeheartedly believe Vision is unaware of what's going on, but he has some suspicion. I don't believe Vision is fully dead. He might be living and existing in Wanda's mind, but his essence is still there. And the reason why I say that is because he comes to these moments of realization, and Wanda immediately either turns back time so he doesn't remember the beekeeper, or glitches so that he doesn't realize that there is something wrong going on in town. He doesn't know that he has a hole in his head, which brings a whole different meaning to that very opening scene in the first episode where Wanda makes the comment of, my husband and his indestructible head, when meantime she knows he has a hole in his head. It kind of speaks to her fragile state of mind. Again, if no one is manipulating her, is it that Wanda has gone through such trauma and stress in her life that she's creating this alternate reality within Westview? And maybe Westview is a source of energy that is allowing her to create this reality. One of the questions on the whiteboard was, why a hexagon, right? And there's this one scene in the episode where you see the radius of the town. It is in the shape of a hexagon, and you see the main streets within the radius, and you know, they're running vertically and horizontally. It almost makes a pattern or almost a design. So is that intentional? Is there more to what we're seeing in that map of the town? At first glance, it kind of did remind me of the symbol of the Sanctum Sanctorum. If you kind of look at the shapes, it's sort of kind of similar, but not really. But is it perhaps a spell of some kind? And that's why she's able to create that reality in Westview, where she casts a spell and there's this hex over it. So we'll see if there's more to that. Just want to go over a couple of things that they confirmed. So who was Geraldine? We got confirmation that she was Monica Rambeau. She is Lieutenant Trouble, which we saw as a little girl in Captain Marvel, which took place in the 90s. We got confirmation that it is Sword who's investigating this situation. The voice behind the radio was Jimmy Woo, tying it back to another of the MCU series. The toy helicopter, it did come from the outside world, and it was actually a drone, and you see why it was in color. And it's because it wasn't part of that 1960s black and white world that Wanda had created. The beekeeper was a Sword agent. At the end of the very first episode, when we see the hands observing Wanda and Vision on the show and writing notes, we saw that that was Darcy. And just a couple of things to ask. Who is the eyewitness? Jimmy Woo mentioned that he had a person in eyewitness protection in Westview, and that's who he was looking for, and this is what started this whole journey for Monica and Jimmy. Who is the eyewitness? I want to believe that there's more to it. Is this someone we know? Is this someone of significance or importance? Another part was, as they're putting the names of the characters on the board and who they are in real life, the only person that did not have a driver's license or they figured out who they were in the real world was Agnes. So who is Agnes? There are some theories behind her and who she is. Is she Agatha Harkness? Could it be? It'd be great, you know, again, tying it back to the comic books, but there's more to Agnes than meets the eye. Who is she? I'm sure we'll get those answers in the upcoming episodes. We only have about 5 more episodes left. Going back to the whiteboard, is this an alternate reality? Are they actually traveling back in time within this reality that Wanda created? Is this some demented social experiment? If someone is manipulating Wanda or controlling her surroundings or controlling her, is someone just messing around with her and messing to see what she's capable of? That's what we have to wait and see. Are we going to get more about the commercials? We see very briefly as Darcy is watching the monitor that we see the Hydra commercial with the watch, but they don't really speak much about it. They're so focused on Wanda and on Vision and what's going on with the town that they don't ask the question of what's the point of the commercials? Who's creating the commercials? If Wanda is just trying to create this reality, what's the point of having these commercials come up periodically? So I feel that there's more to that, and we'll get some answers, hopefully. There was just so much to talk about, but we've all seen this episode. If you're like me, you've seen it multiple times. It was an excellent episode. It was a great way to break things up a little bit and take us and pull us out of what we've been comfortable with seeing for the first 3 episodes. It made us wish to come back to the sitcom vibe of this show, and I can't wait to see episode 5, and I can't wait to see Wanda and Vision's adventure and what happens after that, and where's the show gonna lead to. Is there gonna be a big confrontation with Wanda and Vision as Vision realizes that Wanda's making things happen? She's controlling the townsfolk. What are we gonna see next? And so let me know your theories. What do you think about this episode? Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you appreciate the shift in tone? We got Monica's perspective of what's been going on. We got the perspective from Jimmy Woo and from Darcy and from Sword. We had 2 stories running parallel to one another, and we're back at where we ended in the last episode. So episode 5 will potentially pick up where we've left off, and we'll see what's happening next. So leave your comments below. Let me know your theories. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Do you agree with my theories? Do you agree with what I've covered so far? Thank you again for watching this video. Thank you again for tuning into my channel. And until next time, that's a wrap, and can't wait for the next episode.